Okay, ladies, in this video, I want to give you 11 signs and very clear cues that the guy that you're seeing right now is actually playing you. And then at the end, I'm going to give you 3 more bonus points just to highlight some of these signs that I think can really help you to identify if the guy that you're dating is really serious about you and he's genuine and he's a good dude, or that he's actually one of those guys that are just playing you to take advantage of you and are not really giving you what you ultimately desire. You know, sometimes you feel like you're in this relationship and you're seeing a man, and on one hand, everything seems to go so beautifully, and yet at the same time, there's a couple things off, and you can't quite pinpoint what it is and what's really happening here. And there's all these question marks that are swirling around in your head, and you just want to get some clarity, and yet it's so difficult to find that clarity or to get that clarity from him directly. So I'm going to give you 11 signs that are going to help you to see if that man is actually playing you, and to also help you to identify these red flags that might be all over the place. They're everywhere. And yet for some reason you're not quite willing and able to see them and to identify them and look them in the face. So the first point of all of them is like a very inconsistent communication style. You know, if a man is consistently hot and cold with you, he is like super emotionally invested. And then on the other hand, all of a sudden you get that whiplash. You know, it's like, yes, there's this on and off type dynamic and it's erratic texting here. On the other hand, you feel like you're on standby. You don't really know what's going on. You haven't heard from him a little while. It's like walking around on eggshells just in the way how you're communicating and engaging and texting with him. That's really a sign that his interest might be somewhere else, because he doesn't really give you the time of the day to give you that attention, that love, that nurturing, that care that you want, because he's just doing things only on his own time. And he's probably going to keep his options open. The second point is a kind of a secretive behavior that he's showing more and more and more. You know, there's these mysterious moves in the things that he says and the way how he acts and behaves. There's like hiding details. You don't really never know the full story of what's really going on. Where has he been? What has he done? He's excluding you from his life in different ways. There's plenty of ways how he keeps this mystery so high that you feel like the only one who's really sharing and opening up and being vulnerable and exposing things out of her life is you, and he doesn't quite do the same. Which brings me to today's sponsor. If you're stuck, lost, or confused when it comes to your relationship with men, and you don't know how to communicate your needs to him in a way that makes you feel seen, loved, and heard, then you must see this. Since every woman's personality and circumstance is so unique and so special to you, we have a free relationship assessment quiz that you can take in the link below. That quiz will give you a customizable action plan to give you the love that you deserve, because you're worthy of it and you do deserve it so, so much. So take our free relationship assessment quiz right now, and now back to the video. The third point is a bunch of excuses and avoidance. When I say this, there's always these last minute cancellations. There's no real explanation. Whatever is going to happen in your life, you might have some sort of plans together. Something might come along, it's like, no, I can't be here, and like, no, I can't meet your friends there, and maybe, you know, there's this dinner thing with your family, or like a weekend like celebration with the whole family together. For some reason, all of a sudden he has a business trip. For some reason, he already had other plans. Even though it's like planned months in advance, he still doesn't seem to have time. If you find that he's consistently having a bunch of excuses and has this avoidance around him, be careful. He's probably, again, keeping his options open, checking out different things, exploring different interests, different women, different this, different that he might have, which is just higher on the priority list than being with you. Number 4, he is overly flattery. And when I say this, it's like we've all heard the claim of love bombing, right? Love bombing is one of those things. It sounds beautiful because you think like you get all this attention, all this love from this man. He gives you everything that you want. The thing is this, something that many forget. Men fall in love with what they see. Women, they fall in love with what they hear. So what he's doing in this excessive almost like irrational way of being overly flattery to you. He's telling you all the things that you want to hear. He's telling you all the things that you need to hear and want to hear. So therefore, you lowering down your defense mechanisms, your walls, you feel like you can trust this guy, he's so loving, he's so caring, he says all the right things, and so on and so forth. The reason why he does that, it's literally in many ways, it's just a manipulation tactic, because when he is exposing this overly flattery behavior, that it feels like it's too early, it's too much, and like, I love it and it's so amazing. And yet, if you zoom out, it's like kind of a little bit weird. Like, he cannot know all these things. He barely knows me. And yet he's like so madly in love. He wants to get married to you. He wants to go on this holiday, invite you here and do X, Y, Z, all of this, right? Way too early. The thing that you need to ask yourself is like, this excessive praising. Does he do these things because he's actually genuine about this? Or because he has other motives? Because if you're lowering your standards, if you're lowering the walls and the defense mechanism just to protect yourself, and he tells you the things that you want to hear, then is his motive that he actually just wants to get the things that he wants, which might not necessarily be in alignment with you, but since you trust him so much and he's such a loving guy, he's actually going to get the things that he wants way earlier, way sooner, much faster than you would usually do that. So excessive flattery and love bombing, be aware, stay sharp. It might be not what you think it is. He might be a player. The fifth one is a lack of long-term planning. Future talks are constantly being avoided. There's no planning. It's always a one-way road. There's like no exit sign here. He's literally, the permanent fixture for him is just like, let's just focus on the now. There's no future planning. He doesn't want to look too deep into going on a holiday, short trips, meeting your friends like a few weeks down the line, like all of these things. He doesn't know what he really wants to do back then. And if he's playing you, he doesn't want to make these commitments, because right now he might commit to tomorrow and maybe the day after, because he knows what he's going to get then, and he knows like, yeah, okay, I have some time and space at that time. But few weeks down the line, months down the line, he has no clue, so he wouldn't make these plans. And this goes further. It's not just these short-term goals of like, what do we do next week? Where do we go eat? Okay, there's this family gathering, whatever. No, even like future. Talking about like future plans about the relationship. Maybe even family, maybe marriage, maybe, getting engaged, taking to the next step, moving together. All of these things, like, no. We don't want to talk about this. Let's just stay in the moment. No future planning whatsoever here. The sixth point is he keeps you a secret. And this goes both ways, right? On one hand, he might keep you a secret. He doesn't talk to his friends about you. You've never met his friends. You've never met his family. You've never met his closest circle whatsoever. So if he keeps your secret and there's really completely compartmentalized his life from your life and the life that the two of you have together, that's a sign that he really is probably playing you. I hate to say this, I'm really, really sorry, but if there's such a huge separation between these two, he doesn't really want to merge them whatsoever. Be careful. The seventh point is you're always the initiator. You're always in the driver's seat. You're the one who's like trying to make plans. You're the one who's engaging with him. You're the one who is doing everything basically in order to keep this relationship alive and kind of move it forward. And he's just like sitting in the back, enjoying the attention, enjoying the intimacy, enjoying all the other things that you give him. But he's not really willing to give everything back. Anything back, maybe even, only a bunch of words and flattery comments and, like maybe a few things in the bedroom or whatever. But like at the end of the day, that's all just for his own advantage and for his own pleasure. It's not a balanced dynamic between the two of you. So the investment that he's willing to put in compared to the investment that you are already putting in is so completely off. The discrepancy is so huge. If that is the case, then again, you might want to revisit that type of relationship dynamic overall. Point number 8, his actions don't really match his words. He says one thing, but then he does another. There's a lot of sweet talk, but nothing is backed up by actions. If you check the consistency and the things that he says to the things that he does and the way how he shows up for you, and it's the complete opposite of what you would expect it to be, then be careful. These huge discrepancies usually mean he's definitely not invested as much. He's definitely looking for his own advantages and for his own pleasure here. And he's not really willing to do what's necessary in order to keep it in a healthy, harmonious, beautiful, loving, kind, genuine dynamic here. 9, he's constantly MIA. There's this unexplained absence. And again, I talked about the mystery, but we're going beyond that. It's like these frequent disappearances of his. No explanations. No real clarity around why and what and how. And, there seems to be this hidden agenda, and you can't really quite pinpoint what it is. Because when he's there, maybe everything is beautiful, but then all of a sudden he's not there anymore, and he does a bunch of other things, and you don't even know what it is, and where he was, and where he came from, and who he talked to, and what he's done. Then it goes beyond this secretive behavior, because now it's just he's just MIA. I don't even know where he's at and what he's doing. That's something to really consider. Is this the dynamic that he wants? Because there's a very strong argument that he's literally playing you and just reaches out and is just around you whenever it's the most convenient for him. Number 10 of the 11 points is he's constantly pressuring you into intimacy. That hookup type dynamic, when he's every time you meet each other, every time you see each other, every time there's any type of plan between the two of you, that hookup type mentality, that physical intimacy does become part of it. And it doesn't even matter if you're really interested or not. And unfortunately, what happens a lot is women will do that because they don't have that man anyway as much as they would like to. And there's all these other question marks. But if we're intimate with him, if we give him that physical intimacy that he clearly wants, he wants you and desires me so much, so therefore, let me give it to him, then he's just going to commit more to me. It's actually, he just gets the things that he wants, again, with the least amount of investment, and there's actually no proper commitment towards you. And combine that with all the other points that I brought up. If there's this pressure for intimacy and sex, and this hookup type of mentality that he's consistently kind of exposing, maybe in the most smoothest, charismatic kind of way, but you always find yourself, it goes back to that one thing. Be careful. Yes, we can desire each other. Yes, we want to have that physical sensation of ecstasy with that person. But if this is all that he's interested in, is really? There's so many other things. Pursuing hobbies together, having some serious, beautiful conversations about X, Y, Z, anything else from friends to family to educating. There's so many other things. If you want to spend some quality time with that person, it shouldn't be just reduced to the quality time in the bedroom. And the 11th point is you probably feel more confused with this man than you feel happy. If there's this confusion around this partnership and what it actually is and how he's showing up for you, and there's more an element of stress rather than satisfaction that you constantly feeling, and there's this anxiety over joy, then clearly you have to ask yourself, is this the type partnership for me? Regardless of if he's playing you or not. And yes, he is probably playing you, because otherwise he would create more of a dynamic with you together that doesn't make you feel anxious. That doesn't make me feel he's MIA and I don't even know what he's doing. And there's this I don't know, there's this unsafety and insecurity that's been put on top, as an umbrella of this relationship, which clearly doesn't make you feel good. So if you find yourself in a situation where this partnership actually just becomes an emotional roller coaster of these ups and downs and highs and lows, but it's always turbulence, stress, and a little bit of satisfaction, anxiety, and a little bit of, joy in there, but a lot of unclarity, no future planning, and this constant turbulence in this partnership, please revisit this dynamic with a little bit more of distance. Okay, so these are the 11 main points how I believe you can identify if a man is actually playing you or not. And now I want to give you 3 more. And in some ways I kind of touch base on them, but yet I still want to bring them up separately again because I think they're quite insightful for you. So the 3 bonus points that I have for you. The first one is he avoids important conversations. For some reason, whenever there's a serious talk, he figures out the way that it cannot be talked about right now. There's this avoidance about serious topics and almost like this disappearing act. And that disappearing act can be like he just figures out a way to change the topic from one moment to another. And the important topic actually completely disappears. Or he literally removes himself from the situation because now I can't talk about this right now. I'm so busy. I actually have to go. So if you find that he's avoiding serious topics and conversations, and maybe even completely is avoiding the commitment talk, and he's deflecting any type of exclusivity conversations, then you know that this man is probably playing you. The next point that I want to bring up with this, it's your friends have never met him, and you have never met his friends. So this goes beyond the mystery, because he really, in some way, he makes sure that there's no social circle introduction. Like, it's a complete compartmentalization of his life and your life and the two of you together. Ideally, he just wants to see you when the two of you are alone. He's not interested in meeting any of your friends and family. He doesn't want you to meet any of his friends and his family. That separation is also a very clear sign his motives and his desires and what he's actually looking for is something different than you. And the third point of the bonus signs that will help you to identify if this man is actually serious or if he's just playing you is his emotional roller coaster. We know, yes, life is full of ups and downs and these peaks and valleys, and we have to go left and right, and sometimes we have to go into a loop. It's literally a roller coaster, Our emotions, they're like all over the place. However, if that just becomes an absolute norm of these ups and downs combined with this unclarity and this unknowing and this mystery and any and all of these other points that I just mentioned, these signs, then you really have to ask yourself, is this a loving partnership and relationship that becomes a foundation for something, or is this more like a killer for anything else because you just kept in this loop and it's always the same? The story might look different, but it's consistently and always that same circle and loop that you find yourself in with that man. And if that's the case, and these emotional moments and the roller coaster of the highs and the lows is just consistently the same, and there's no stability whatsoever, that you feel like, okay, now we're having a smooth ride, then that's also a clear sign his motives and his desires and attentions and the type of relationship dynamic or dating dynamic that he's looking for seems to be very off balance to the one that you're looking for. So let me do one little disclaimer at the very end. Because obviously, just because if a man exposes one or two or maybe even three of these signs, that doesn't automatically mean he's a player and he's playing you and he's manipulating you. Absolutely not. Those are cues, those are signs that will help you to identify if something's really off and he might be playing you. Often those are very clear identifiers, but that's not a for sure thing. So if you find that he exposes a lot of them, then clearly you know something is terribly off here right now. And there's a very, very high chance that he's playing you. But there might be also a bunch of other reasons why this is the case. So take this with face value. Don't take this as like a 100% clear thing. This is how it is. It cannot be anything else. But if he's exposing a bunch of these cues, then you need to dig deeper. Or maybe you're already realizing, you know what? Everything that I thought that he might be playing me, all of these examples that Sascha just has given me, yeah, there's no point of moving forward with this man because clearly we're not on the same page. It's not the type of relationship that I'm looking for. It's not the type of loving dynamic that I want. And on top of it, staying in that dynamic actually holds me back from finding a man who genuinely wants to be with me. Not just on his terms, but actually in a genuine, loving, beautiful relationship with me.